like to throw in a little FlexCare fact before our presentation. We have a new offering within the FlexCare catalog of services for M365 security enablement. It offers a quarterly scan of your M365 environment along with quarterly meeting with a security engineer where you receive report and recommendations around your M365 experience. This is a very sought after presentation from Tate. I think he doesn't need a teleprompter because he's got it down pretty much. Tate Helfenstein is our infrastructure engineer who is all in on Microsoft 365 and Intune. He's a professional nerd who loves solving tech puzzles and making systems run smoother. When he's not deep in authentication configs or mobile setups, you'll probably find him gaming or geeking out over new hardware. He likes things quick, which I think that's my...
You're good, yes.
Yeah, here. Alrighty, well, thank you, Chris, for the introduction there. Again, hi everyone, my name is Tate, and today we're going to be talking about something that you've probably heard the terminology out from Microsoft, but that's called modern work. But a quick little bit deeper introduction into myself. There we go. So, like my little bio said, heavily into the 365 world. Just about every single certification that I have is a Microsoft certification. So that's where I put all my eggs into one basket, for better or for worse. Outside of work, like I said, I'm a nerd. I like to play video games and stuff like that. So I do anything Nintendo. I guess I was an Xbox person. But now I mostly just play Mario with my wife. On the right-hand side there is my daughter. I'm starting her early, so she's working for me while I'm at the office. She's working for me at home. Double pay, double work. There we go. And then if we're not being nerds, my wife and I and the little one, we like to go to like the Red Hawks games, just sit there and have fun, watch a game, and enjoy the outdoors. So today we're going to be talking about the pillars of modern work, and this is kind of what Network Center considers it. Again, you've heard the word modern work probably thrown out from different vendors, Microsoft themselves, but this is what NCI kind of brings it down to what we believe it is. So in the pillar one is that productivity and that collaboration. If we want to equate this to the 365 stack, this is going to be your Teams and your SharePoint. How are we communicating with each other? How are we communicating with outside businesses? And how are we sharing our data between each other? In that old typical fashion, we had a file server and we had email and attachment, but now we share a link and we get that downloaded from that way. That next piece of it's going to be that security and compliance. So how are we handling those interactions through that productivity and that communication? Is it in a secure and safe way? Is it in a way that we want to make sure we're targeting the right people and those kind of things? We have that ability to kind of target it in. Again, equating it to the 365 stack, this would be maybe a Microsoft Defender for endpoint, conditional access, those different security features for them. The next is going to be that employee experience. Like, what does it look like for the employee to be doing these things? How do I access my content? How do I use resources? How do I do my job? How am I interacting with the applications themselves? And inside of the Microsoft stack, that would be Viva. Viva is a whole topic that we won't be getting into too much here today, but that's kind of monitoring how they're interacting with your environment. The next one there is that cloud and device management. And between this one and that security and compliance, that's going to be the focal point of this presentation. But your cloud and device management, that's going to be your Intune. How are we pushing out policies to our devices? How are we pushing out applications to our devices? This could also be your cloud environment, as in, are you putting stuff into Azure? Are you doing Windows 365? Are you doing AVD? There's all these different technologies on how we used to do stuff on-prem, but now we're pushing it into the cloud so we can be more mobile, more agile. And then that final piece, there's that AI and that automation. So that could be Copilot. How are we using it to integrate into our content, and how are we making ourselves more efficient and more faster? How are we automating certain workflows that we used to have to manually click using something like Power Automate or Power BI or Power Apps, those different solutions out there in that 365 stack. So how do we get here? So ultimately, the push for hybrid's been a thing since Microsoft kind of came out with Azure and that kind of stuff as an AWS. Like that push for cloud has been happening. And so people started going to more hybrid, to more remote. But then ultimately, 2020 hit, the pandemic hit. And any business that wasn't prepared for hybrid or remote work had to figure that whole solution out pretty quickly. And that forced us to go home. That then ultimately meant, how do we protect these devices? So people were getting spiffs to go buy a device. People were getting sent home with those devices. And our old technology that we used to secure those things, maybe that was group policy, it needed a line of sight of the domain. And if you've ever done GPO over a VPN, it's, And so the different security things that we used to use didn't become as reliable, so we had to change, we had to adapt. And then on the other side of it, Microsoft, specifically with the business premium license, and that's kind of the main license that we're talking about today, because that's going to give us the enablement for all these features we're going to talk about. That one license group just got better and better. I mean, originally it was just email, and then it was apps for business. So we got Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. We didn't have to buy Office volume licensing. So now our people can just log into different computers, and I can have all my Office applications, and I don't have to worry about it. Then it started doing more stuff for like MFA and conditional access, and those products just got better and better. We had the license, but were we taking advantage of it? And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about on how we can get there. So we're going to talk about modern work management in NCI's way and how we're going to be approaching it. So Intune is kind of the backbone of almost everything in modern work when we talk about security and application deployment. If you're a current FlexCare customer with us and you're using something called NCI Pro or Automate, Intune itself can be a replacement or a supplement to Automate. Intune can do application updates. Intune can do OS updates, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit more here. If you have hosted AV with us, right now we're using something called ESET, or if you have your own antivirus out there, Defender for Endpoint can be a replacement or a supplement to your current antivirus or EDR solution. And we've kind of curated two packages depending on how you would like to Network Center to partner with you to handle those things. So the first package we're going to be introducing here is called M365 Manage Endpoint. And what Manage Endpoint is really focusing on is the device itself. So you're going to get all these fun features with that. So that first one is going to be what we call Managed Autopilot. So if anyone was just in the room next door, we got to see Autopilot in action. But what Autopilot is, for those who was not in there, it is a built-in Microsoft tool that allows us to image devices quickly, get security configurations to that device in a quick and orderly fashion, and we're going to help manage that for you. We're going to get into a base set where it gets into your domain. We'll manage your base applications that we consider are pretty easy to push out. If you have anything that is super complex or outside of it, that might need a little bit of a project to get those functioning, but once they're in, they're in. We can do OS updates and app updates. So right now, Automate is doing that for some of you. I mean, some of you may be doing it in different ways. Maybe you're running old WSUS. Maybe you have your own application. But again, Intune can do these things for you, right built in natively. You can have it do feature updates. You can have it do quality updates. I know one of the conversations we had earlier today was Windows 10 is gone. Now what do we do? How do we get to 11? Intune can help facilitate those things. It can also do your app updates. So as Intune app packaging is happening, you can have it update your Chrome, your Adobe, those different applications, so you don't have to worry about those being out there, not getting patched. Inventory. So Intune can do a full asset inventory on your endpoints. And that's a key part of this presentation I want everyone to kind of take a home to, is this is focusing solely on the endpoint. This isn't hitting our servers. Intune doesn't work with servers themselves, so we still need outside tools like NCI Pro, Automate, or a different RMM solution to help manage those devices. BitLocker can be managed through Intune very easily. If you're not using BitLocker now, or you're just targeting certain devices, normally you're using maybe your AV can do it for you. Maybe you are using GPO. But what this lets you do is easily do it through Intune, and then give your end users some ability to kind of self-help themselves. They can open up the company portal and I can find my BitLocker recovery code, I don't actually need to call the help desk. I can get that for myself if I get that nasty BitLocker pop-up, because a BIOS update happened and I wasn't prepared for it. Defender for Endpoint, we'll deep dive in a little bit more, but you're going to get that a part of that 365 Business Premium license. So that is a fully enterprise-grade EDR, XDR solution. And again, we'll go a little bit more on how that compares to the other competitors out there. LAPS is local admin password solution, and I might have said that one wrong, but basically what this lets you do is have a local admin on your account, on your endpoints, excuse me, and we can set up policies to automatically rotate that password for you. Typically when we're imaging our devices, we all have that local admin. That's our break glass account to get into that machine if it's having issues. If you're not doing a LAP solution or another third-party solution to rotate those passwords, you typically have one password on all your devices out there. And if that one password gets compromised or figured out, you have a whole fleet of passwords you have to figure out and change. What LAPS lets you do, like I said, is you can rotate that password based on conditions. So I can say every 14 days, rotate that password, and it gets stored inside of Intune. So your techs or us, if we're helping manage it in a support sense, can easily log into the environment, grab that one-time password and log in. And maybe I have that password set to rotate as soon as it's been used once. You can do those kind of policies. Manage endpoint with Intune, I can script, so I can do native PowerShell. Or if you're handling different OSs like Mac, you can do Bash. So you have the ability to script right from Intune itself, push those commands down, and as long as that device has an internet connection, I can push out a script to it. And then MDM and mobile application management. Again, if you were in the other presentation, I did a little bit more of a deep dive in there, but we will actually help manage those for your devices as well. So if you do have corporate-owned devices, you need help getting Apple Business Manager set up, you need help managing those devices, we could be there for you in that regard. And if you watch the mobile application management demo, I can push that into your environment with relatively ease. That won't really affect your current end users. The second one that we're going to introduce here is what's called Manage Endpoint Security. And this is going to be tackling more on the domain itself or your whole entire tenant. So we're going to have advanced tenant policies that we can help push out to your tenant. And why that's super crucial is for anyone that's had an M365 environment, and maybe you're one of the first and it's been there for 10, 15 years. As new security features get into that 365 environment, Microsoft's go-to with it typically is either to have it as set to default, so you don't have any sort of control over it. So one day you come in and none of your users can log in. Or B, they just set it to not configured, so you're missing out on a security tool that could be easily enabled. And even myself, as I go into 365 environments every single day, into multiple different environments, every time I go to a new page, I find something new, and I'm like, well, that wasn't there before. That's cool. Security score, if you've ever looked into that on the 365 side of things, that is Microsoft's kind of way of saying how well you are in a grade sense in your environment. It focuses on your data, your applications, your identity, and your endpoints, and you'll get a base score on it. We'll help manage that for you and give you a report on it so you can see where your spots may be lacking and then what you can do to kind of help get those improved, and we can create a plan for that together. One thing I will say about security score is it is provided by Microsoft, so it is Microsoft's way to kind of get you up the license ladder. So some of the features are like, hey, you want to get these points? Spend more money with us. So we can kind of figure out, like, is there different solutions to like mitigate that, and so you don't necessarily have to get the higher tier license. Maybe we can do it in a different fashion. With the Manage Endpoint, you also get something that's called Console Connect. So if you're familiar with like Screen Connect, TeamViewer, anything like that, we will give you that for your environment. Right now in today's land, that is again only for your endpoints, but we will be able to provide it to your servers here shortly. We're working on getting that developed out. What that happens then is then you will have a portal that you can log into and then remote into your devices. You can do it as either a shadow session, so you can just hop on into someone's current session. You can also ping them saying, hey, Tate's about to join, and then they'll get that notification, they hit yes or no. You can kind of do those things. One thing I like to say about the Console Connect too is that is for you to use in your environment. It is not Network Center's tool to connect with you. We will still be using our current solutions, so our request we send out or support authentication we'll be sending out. Managed conditional access is probably one of the two bigger pillars on this one that I think is super huge. If you're not using conditional access in your environment today, I highly, highly recommend talking to an account rep and getting a 365 review. Conditional access lets you enforce MFA by bypassing the 365 defaults. So if you are an old enough tenant, MFA is not turned on by default. If you're a new enough tenant, it's on by default, but per Microsoft's regulations. And with that being said, it's MFA or not. So like there may be scenarios where you need a printer to connect into your environment, but you don't want to have MFA on that printer. I could set up rules saying, hey, that printer doesn't need MFA as long as it's coming from this IP address. So you can do those kind of unique scenarios and keep your devices secure, but also be flexible in that environment. The advanced NCI policy implementation, that's just basically our best practices that we recommend pushing out to your devices, and we kind of have that dialogue with each other on what you would like that to look like in your environment. These what I think are your typical like Windows settings. Do I want it to go to sleep when it's plugged in? Do I want it to set to the right time zone? Those kind of things. Typically we do those through group policy, but the benefit of, again, using Intune, if we are remote, if we are hybrid, or even if we are just in the domain itself 24/7, if GPO isn't working correctly, or just domain control goes down, whatever that looks like, as long as that device has an internet connection, it will be getting those Intune policies, so you're a little bit more flexible on how you're pushing out those configurations. You are a heavy GPO shop and you have a lot of GPOs that you're really proud of. We can actually export those and put them into Intune, so you don't have to recreate the wheel. It'll go through a little cycle with us that says, hey, these are good policies, we can just migrate them through. Maybe they'll say this needs to be changed here or there, so you can make it, those edits. Or maybe it's a deprecated policy, you don't need it anymore. Or if it is something you need, we can tackle a different way of doing it. And then the second biggest pillar that was really, really cool about this service is that we have a one-click, basically, CIS policy implementation for your machines that we can push to all your endpoints out, Windows endpoints that will get them up to a CIS level 1 implementation around a 90% security score. So if you've ever done CIS stuff and you've run the tool, an out-of-the-box Windows machine is typically around 20% CIS level 1 implemented. Our one-click policy will get you all the way up to 90%. So it'll take your security posture, especially if you're a regulatory entity that has to do some sort of compliance or anything like that. Our auditors really like the word CIS level 1. I'm doing good things. It makes them really happy. My computer CIS level 1, I can still work. That's a positive. A lot of people get scared when we push these implementations out to it that they aren't going to be able to do those things. So take a moment here to kind of go over the differences between if you have an RMM solution, maybe that be our NCI Pro, or what the managed endpoint would kind of look like. So NCI Pro, Automate, or your RMM solution of choice, you typically have a dedicated agent on that machine, while Intune is agentless. So what that looks like is if I try and push a script or something to that machine, that agent is sitting on that computer and going, what do I need to do next? And it's checking in rapidly, maybe every 2 minutes, maybe every 3 minutes. It's waiting for a command. Intune doesn't behave that way. Intune behaves on a check-in system. So if I set that check-in system to be every 30 minutes, it'll wait till that 30 minutes to basically check in and push out that script, maybe do that app update. So if you are ever in that time period where hey, I need to have this script pushed out instantly, that's where Intune can be a really good supplement to your current RMM solution. Programmed app updates, if you're doing NCI Pro with us right now, we only are doing a couple of apps. Maybe that'd be Adobe, maybe that'd be Chrome, Zoom. There's a handful, like 5 or 6 apps that we're currently updating for you. With Managed Endpoint, we can do those applications, and we also have compatibility with Winget. So if you haven't heard of Winget before, it's the Microsoft public repository of applications. So using Winget, the Chrome, Adobe, they put their apps into that repository, and it's built into native Windows from like Windows 15.04 or something like that, Windows 10. So it's been in it for a while. You can just run a command Winget upgrade /all, and it'll upgrade all of your applications to what's in that repository. With Manage Endpoint and Intune, it has a built-in connection with our software that we can manage all those updates on your machine as well. So as long as it's in the Winget repository, we can keep it up to date. And we don't have to really worry about a management. We just set a policy out there to say, hey, update these at these times. NCI Pro kind of has its built-in scripting engine. So if you are just relying on NCI making those scripts, or if you're making any of your own, you kind of have to automate in a sense to make your own scripts. While Manage Endpoint just supports native PowerShell. So if you know how to do a PowerShell command, you can push that out through Intune. The next benefits then for the Manage Endpoint, though, is it's again for multiple OSs. Intune doesn't care about the OS. I can do Mac, I can do Windows, I can do iOS, and I can do Android. So if you have an endpoint out there, we can manage it in some sort of way. May that be updates, may that be security policies. Policy management, again, kind of what I was talking about. I don't have to worry about GPO anymore. I don't have to have that line of sight of domain. As long as that device has an internet connection, I can push out emergency requirements or audits or fixes through Intune. And then the other biggest point of it is that conditional access. Intune and conditional access can go hand in hand, and you can do some really cool things. So in Intune, there's a thing called compliance policies that you can push out. Compliance policies themselves don't do anything. They just say, hey, is this endpoint meeting my requirements? But if it's not, I can have it do specific things, like after 7 days become non-compliant. And I can then have conditional access trigger saying, hey, if that device is non-compliant, don't let it have access to our resources. Don't let it log into email. You can do those cool, powerful things. Because when we think about vulnerability management or OS updates and stuff like that, us as IT professionals, we have so many things that we're trying to handle, trying to do all at once. And we get those reports, and maybe we're not paying attention to them because we have other fires that are happening with them. And so they kind of get sometimes pushed down the wayside. I always say if there's one way to make sure you stay up to date and secure is if you make the end user not able to connect to email, they'll put in a ticket and make you solve it really quickly. Any questions on that? And I do have candy, so if you have questions, you do get candies. I'm not going to throw it at you because I'm blind and can't see you, and you did not sign a waiver, so I don't want to poke anyone's eyes out. Once, going twice, sold. All right. So we're going to take a little bit of time here and talk about Defender for Endpoint itself. So if we were to go back in time and talk about Defender, I would probably have laughed when I would be telling you it's a good recommendation. It's been built into Windows since, I believe, Windows 8. And it's kind of just been an annoyance on it for us. Typically, we try and uninstall it, get rid of it, because it wasn't doing anything crazy. And with that being said, Defender's still on your computers today unless you're telling it to be removed. And I want to highly, put in that Defender and Defender for Endpoint are two very different products. Defender is just a baseline AV that comes built into Windows for consumers to have some sort of antivirus to be try and protected by default. Defender for Endpoint turns Defender into a fully enterprise-grade solution. So Gartner has recognized it as a leader. If you look at the Magic Quadrant, on the top right is where you want to be. It's been up there for the last 6 years. And if we compare it to the other kind of leaders out there, like CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, Palo Alto, it is right next to it. Technically, the only one that's a little bit higher is CrowdStrike, but other than that, it's been Defender up there. And the main reason why I think that is that when we install CrowdStrike, when we install our antivirus, whatever that may look like, the AV has to tell Windows, can I have permissions to see your logs? Can I have permissions to review those files? It has to request those from it. So if Windows updates, it can potentially break some things, maybe things get away from it, whatever that may look like. But Defender is built into the operating system, so it just has those rights natively. It has the best telemetry. It can pull all those logs, so it can do those detections with it very, very quickly, which makes it such a powerful tool. And again, Defender for Endpoint's included in our business premium, but a lot of us are not deploying it out. Now, with that being said, if you're happy with your current antivirus, I'm not telling you to throw it out. Defender for Endpoint's also very smart. If you enable it in your environment, it goes into a passive mode, and it knows that it's not top dog, but it will still do the telemetry. And a lot of our other EDR solutions, like Arctic Wolf, if you have Huntress, or whatever solutions out there, even CrowdStrike, I believe, you can integrate Defender for Endpoint into it, and those EDR solutions will take that telemetry, take those logs, and make their solution that much better. And that's where I say it can either supplement or be a replacement to your current EDR solution. So again, manage endpoint, the first bucket is focus on the device management of itself. We're targeting, again, what apps are we putting onto our devices? What security policies are we putting on our devices? What configuration policies are we putting on those devices? We're just trying to make sure that device is locked down in the sense that we want it to be, and then have the applications that end user needs to do their work. Intune is the backbone of our program. So with our technology, it hooks into your Intune, and then allows us to push out our recommended applications, our recommended policies, and then we can work together managing your Intune environment. Yeah, so we manage that instance of your Intune. But we also, if you want to have access into our technology, you can have access into your domain, and we can teach you how to use our tool. The beauty of our tool that kind of really doesn't even really talk about this is it hooks into all parts of 365. So Exchange, SharePoint, Teams, all that. So beforehand, you had to know which blade you're going into to figure that out. And if you've ever been in 365, you've probably gotten lost, because I get lost every day in it. And then I have to file bankruptcy and restart my computer because I have 30 tabs open trying to find what I'm looking for. This kind of puts it into a very nice pane of glass. Everything's just on a nice left-hand side where you can go, I want to go into Exchange and I can manage mailboxes. I want to reset a person's password, I can reset a password for it inside of it as well. It actually can integrate into your AD if you are a hybrid environment, then it can reset the password from that web page. We'll talk a little bit of autopilot there too, because that's a key part of the solution itself. So again, if you were in the other presentation, I'll give it kind of the more short side of it. But what autopilot is you work with your provider, whoever you're purchasing your devices from. So if that is Network Center, or if that is a OEM of your choice, you work with them. They will give you the device ID or hashes of it and give you it into a CSV file so you can upload it into your autopilot inventory, or they can connect and put it into autopilot inventory for you. Once those are in there, when you boot the device up and go through open box experience, it'll check in with Microsoft and it'll say, hey, I'm owned by this organization, and it'll get a set of profiles to it where it'll join it to the domain automatically, push out all of your security applications, push out all of your end user applications and any security profiles and configurations you want on it, and then it will sit there and configure it for you. The end user can't get to a desktop until those are completed. So when they do get to that desktop, they have a fully secured and managed device before they can even touch your resources. We'll talk a little bit about mobile application management. Again, there's MDM. You're focusing on the device itself. Mobile application management allows you, if you have a lot of BYOD devices, or let your end users log into their email on their phone, it lets you protect the domain, not the device. So you don't have to worry about the end user complaining, like, I don't want you to install so-and-so on my app. I don't want you controlling my phone. I don't want you to wipe my phone. Like, you don't have to go through that. It allows you to have security policies on the app itself. So when you log in, if I want to look into my work email, I have to put in a PIN. If I want to copy and paste data, it will just tell me no, unless I'm trying to put it into another work app that's logged into my domain. So it focuses on protecting the domain, not the device. And then on the managed endpoint security side of things, again, we're focusing on that tenant and device security through 365, because again, the overall environment has been changing on us every single day. So as those changes happen, we will push out the correct configurations to our best practices. If they will not harm the end user in any shape or form, we will just automatically do it. But if we do see that they will have some sort of level of impact on the end user, we'll have a discussion before that enrollment goes out. And then we can kind of plan for it. Or if you want to skip on it, we can defer it and just say you don't get that specific policy. That being said, anything automated can lead to potential uh-ohs. So just bear with us and we'll work together to get those resolved as soon as possible. Again, Intune is the backbone again of all of that. So pushing those CIS policies down, Intune is the one that's facilitating those protections and getting us into that level 1 enforcement. So the tenant side of it, though, what we're specifically focusing on, again, is as the different buckets update, we'll get those security things on there. So a good one, for example, I don't think a lot of people sometimes don't have it configured unless they've gone through an audit, is there's a setting in Entra where if an end user logs into a non-Microsoft app and they're trying to connect it to your tenant to get maybe email, maybe get calendar, whatever that looks like, if you have it set as default, that end user can consent to that, and then they can pull all that data from your 365. You can bring in all of those API connections. And a good example, I use something called Skylight. If you've ever used it, they're really cool. Helps you manage your whole entire family's calendar. I had to approve it, but if that's not set up on there, if that end user logs in, it can just connect and then bring all that data in. I've seen where organizations have had compromise because an end user thought they were logging into a good email thing to look at, or a good calendar app, and what it did is end up siphoning a lot of that data. That's something that you can just one-click toggle off. If you don't know where it's at, though, it's hard to find it, and we can help manage those and keep them correctly configured. Managed conditional access, again, we're targeting to make sure that the devices themselves are locked down by the policies and restrictions you want. And then you get that console connect, so you have a safe and secure way to access your environment. We can connect in those different applications out there. If you don't have them properly configured, they can have some issues with it. The next thing about console connect, it is 365 based, so you can use conditional access, so you can make sure it's coming from the state side or a known good laptop. Do a little brief talk about CIS if you haven't heard about them before, which most people have. It's the Center for Internet Security. Ultimately, it is a nonprofit organization that tries to come up with the best practices for us on a business standpoint to keep our devices and our assets secured. So we get those managed policies. They're not created by Tate. They're actually coming directly from CIS. We've partnered with them through our technology that we're getting them from them directly. So as CIS makes changes, you'll get those benefits right away. Again, they'll take your devices from a 20% if you're going base configuration out of Windows up to a level 90% with one click. Level 2 is coming, but level 2 does break stuff because it does add a lot more security protections on the device. So it's not something we just want to push out and say, yes, we can do this for our customers. It does take some planning and some grooming to make sure it works correctly in your environment, because there may be some settings that conflict for you to do your work. So we want to make sure those are turned off and kind of do it in a tested environment. And that kind of wraps up the presentation there. Do we have any questions on anything Intune, anything 365, the service itself, the two different packages? Now's your time. And again, like I said, I got candy and I will throw it. Just kidding. I'll hand it to you. Yeah.
Back on the autopilot, the device ID.
Correct. Yeah, so if you're doing like a byte speed or something like that, so there's a PowerShell script that I can give you that Microsoft has provided that will actually harvest the hash from the machine. With that being said, though, you don't have to bring it to desktop to do that. You can get it from OpenBox Experience. You can do just Shift F10 to open up a command prompt, turn it to PowerShell, and then type in this command from Microsoft. It will then prompt you with a 365 login. As long as that person logging in is an Intune admin, it will harvest that hash and automatically upload it into Intune for you. And then you can start autopiloting in it. For devices that are in Intune today and you want them in autopilot, you can set a policy to do that for you. So if you ever have to wipe those devices and make them go through OpenBox Experience again, they will just instantly already be enrolled in autopilot and you can kind of skip that step. A really cool thing with autopilot too, you get something that's called autopilot reset. So we've all had it where an endpoint is having issues for an end user and you've gone through countless hours of trying to figure out what's going on with this device and you finally hit the I'm done, let's just wipe it. But they might be in Timbuktu. From Intune, you can hit autopilot reset. It will wipe the device and it will bring them back to a known good image with just your security policies, and then you can see if it's still having those same issues from a click of a button. So works really well for if you have multiple satellite locations and you're just one guy who doesn't want to travel everywhere. Good question. Feel free to. All right.
Question regarding the CIS.
Yes.
I would like to know if you have any resources you can provide for policy implementation.
Like you just want to see what policies we're pushing out?
Yes.
Yeah, we can partner together, and I can kind of give you the policies that we're doing from it. So if you wanted to Google it yourself, specifically what we're targeting is CIS level 1 for Intune. There are some OS things that you need to like physically bake in. There's CIS for Windows 11, and then there's CIS for Windows 11 Intune. The Intune is what we're targeting because we're not expecting people to be subscribed to CIS to get those specialized images. So if you Google that, or if you want one off, I can find you that PDF and I'll show you all the policies that we're pushing out. And again, right now we're targeting just Windows. We're working right now to get Mac. So if you have Fruit people, I'm a Fruit person, I run Mac daily. We can help with those out, and we're also getting policies targeting for iOS and Android too. Good question. Yeah, so in the presentation that we were in over there, I think I talked a little longer than I wanted to, but I would say it was about 15 to 20 minutes and that device was fully set up. So it works really, really well. Again, if you're a cloud native environment, you're not going hybrid, which that's a fun discussion. There's Mike Pagan is doing a topic on that of how you can potentially go cloud native and still access on-prem resources through something called Cloud Kerberos. But regardless, if you do cloud native, it goes super quickly, but then you can use something that's called temporary access pass. What that will let you do is get a 6 to 8 digit passcode that lets you log in as the user with bypassing that user's MFA and not needing to know their password. So as an IT professional, if you're wanting to set up that person's device and not have to have them log in and track them down, you can issue that. It's a one-time code that you can set it up to be. So you log in, it'll authenticate, bypass MFA, and then it'll start that configuration like you were logging in as that person. Autopilot itself can go through two different flows. There's the device flow and then there's the user flow. And so why that temporary access pass is useful is our device flows, we're normally pushing out our security stack, our base apps, so Office, Adobe, Chrome. But maybe that person's a part of marketing and they need Photoshop or Premiere, or maybe they're accounting and they use QuickBooks, and I'm sorry. But then we can, when that person logs in, they can have those be pushed out specifically to them because it's self-aware that I'm Tate, I'm accounting, and I have to use QuickBooks. So you can kind of do those things. In a hybrid route, you can still use temporary access pass to kind of bypass it a little bit, but at some point it needs to authenticate with the domain itself, so you do need domain credentials for that user. Good question. Anything? Yeah. Yeah, so it's per user. And so the way Defender for Endpoint works is it's if you have shared devices that are out in your environment, for every one person that is business premium or has a dedicated Defender for Endpoint license, they're good for 5 devices. So as long as your users times 5 is lower than the amount of your devices, you're covered. If you need some dedicated licenses to go over, you can buy specific ones for Defender. Yeah, so business premium will come with Defender for Plan 1, which that will be the EDR. You can do your advanced AV detection policies and that kind of stuff like that. Plan 2 is out there. That will do more like a vulnerability management system, or it's scanning your device for like applications. It'll say this needs to be patched, and it'll do those things. So it gives you a little bit more telemetry on the apps themselves, while Plan 1 is definitely more focused on the operating system. And then, so that's Defender for Endpoint for endpoints. Servers, there, if you are business premium, you can buy a license that's called Microsoft Defender for Business for Server, which is a couple of bucks and a mouthful. But that will let you license a server and servers, you can have up to 60 with that license. Once you go past that, then you have to do what's called Defender for Cloud, Plan 1 and Plan 2. Those are a little bit more expensive, but they also entitle you to a lot more stuff when it comes to like the Azure side of stuff.
Yeah, because we got CrowdStrike.
Yep.
And they're always
Yeah, you definitely probably could. And like I said, I mean, if you're using CrowdStrike, talk to CrowdStrike too, because I think for the devices that are using Defender, they can actually use that telemetry and make that product better for those main ones too. Yeah, so as soon as Defender sees a different AV, it goes into passive mode and it's just doing telemetry and logs then. It won't actually enforce, so you don't have to worry about like resource being tackled on each other. They won't fight. Then it'll go into full-fledged mode. Yep, it's smart enough to be dynamic. Good question. Like candy? I'm gonna come up with a full bag of candy. That's okay, I have family, they'll eat it. Any other questions? It can be anything, like I said, Microsoft, it can be plan related, it can be Intune, whatever your heart's desire. I'll at least attempt to give you an answer. Once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. Again, and if you have questions that pop up, that's my email. You can scan that QR code. If you're interested in the actual plans themselves, that will get you to a form you can fill out that will go to our account execs, and then we'll reach out to you and schedule like a full live demo of the stack.